Welcome to the first episode of War Stories of the Green Berets, where I am going to read stories of the Green Berets from the book of the same name. The book is linked in the description if you want to order a copy. I don't know if this book is good for academics or studying or anything real boring like that, but this book is fun as hell. It gives you real stories from guys who were special forces, tons of just great, memorable tales that are going to really sit with you, and they sort of humanize the war. Without further ado, let's get to it. This story is called Miller Time with the NVA, and it's from Dennis Mack. I went on another prisoner snatch mission with a captain who later earned a Medal of Honor. We found a trail with a lot of commo wire running along it. We could hear generators at the top of the hill and the bottom of the hill, and it seemed reasonable that there was a lot going on. We decided to cut the commo wire and wait until somebody came along to find the break. Hopefully it would be a commo guy, and then we'd have somebody really knowledgeable. Although I thought it was a bad idea, the captain insisted that we cache our rucks at the rally point before we set up to snatch the prisoner. He and the other members of the team took the stuff while I stayed by the trail. Being lazy and hot, I lay back against a tree, put my feet out with the commo wire right across the top, with my feet on the trail. As a matter of fact, I reached in my ruck and took out a beer. I always have some beer with me, at least a 6-pack. So I'm sitting there, enjoying my beer, and what do I see coming up the trail but two guys? I thought, Dennis, you goofed up. They wandered up the trail, one with a big sack, both with their weapons slung backwards where they couldn't get to them. They got to me, looked at my feet, and stopped. They looked at me, and I had my weapon pointed at them. First, they smiled. Then you could see it go across their faces. This is an American! I'm sure it never dawned on them that they'd ever see one. I looked down the trail, and there were more of them, and they were moving up towards me. But the rest of the team had moved up into position by now, and I felt a little better. Another NVA came along, stopped, and saw me. He was a little braver than the others, and I thought, oh, I'm in trouble with this guy. The rest of them were bumping into each other, and this guy started to go for his weapon. I was up on one knee, ready to go. When that third guy went for his AK, the whole team opened up on them. I used my weapon to club the first two, and they went down. I took the weapons away from them, and had the cuffs on the first one. There was firing everywhere. I stuck my hand in that big sack. It was Nuck Mom fermented fish sauce. I was mad. I figured it was full of money. I thought I was a millionaire. So I punched these two guys, cut them loose, and told them to get going. We took off down the hill, and then we called in an airstrike on the position and called for extraction. The 86s, another version of the Sky Raider attack plane, started bombing the top of the hill and began taking lots of ground fire. One of the planes was hit several times. The helicopters came and got us out with MacGyver rigs, harnesses that allowed the team to be quickly extracted by attaching themselves to a rope hung from the helicopter. It was a horrible ride. Every time I did it, I said, I will never, ever do that again. But then, the next time, I put it on again. You had to have a good pilot. When he plucked you out of that jungle, if he started taking hits and took off, or did anything except go straight up, you were dead. After I got to FOB2, I ran 6 or 7 operations and didn't fire a shot. I saw incredible numbers of North Vietnamese, more on one operation than most guys in the 101st would see in a whole tour. If things were going smoothly, I didn't have to fire my weapon. Elephant Stories from Dennis Mack. We were coming into an LZ and the grass was so high that you couldn't see the ground. The helicopter's rotor wash was pressing it down, but even so, the ground wasn't visible. I kept telling the pilot to go lower, but he was getting nervous. The blades were starting to cut the grass. Even so, I couldn't see the deck, and I was not jumping off this thing. I was thinking, if I jump and break a leg, then I will be really screwed because they won't be able to get us out of here. The pilot and I were arguing this way, with me standing outside on the skid, when the helicopter started to move violently. I almost fell off. I grabbed something, and up we went. About 20 elephants crossed the LZ underneath us. If we had been put down there, we would have been pounded into the ground. Another time, over in Laos, we had been on the ground 4 or 5 days and hadn't seen the enemy. I was thinking, this is an easy one. We kept walking. We weren't doing anything. Finally, we stopped for a break. I was sitting there with my back to a tree, and we heard brush crashing in the distance. I looked at the interpreter, and he looked at me, and we all got up on one knee, in firing positions behind trees, watching. It was an elephant. It came crashing through the brush and buzzed right past us. The interpreter and I said, don't shoot, it will give away our position. But it came back and came crashing through the brush again. I had laid the radio on the ground, and the elephant stepped on it, crushing it. I looked at that and thought, this is ridiculous. The brush was very thick. You couldn't see more than 50 feet or so, and that made it hard to tell what was happening. The elephant repeated this performance a couple of times, screaming and yelling, crashing around, and I told the interpreter, enough is enough. If it does that again, we shoot. The elephant came back and everybody opened up, full automatic. We shot him in the front, the side, everywhere. But he went on and by and came back again. We started firing again, but this time the interpreter, who had the M79 grenade launcher, fired. He thumped the elephant with a high explosive M79 round, and well, that was the end of the elephant. In retrospect, the thing that amazed me about the incident is that we didn't manage to shoot each other. We were shooting like madmen. It wasn't a very big elephant, but it sure was a mean elephant.